Hi YouTube, Marielle here. Having been a victim of narcissistic abuse for over 2 decades, my mind is stuck in the obsessive loop of trying to untangle the very long threads of my abuse. Despite my best effort, it is almost impossible for me to keep my mind away from trying to connect the dots and make sense of the very unhealthy, toxic relationship I was in. And part of the process of connecting those dots includes making comparisons with everything else I have learned so far in my life from all sorts of sources. And even though the process is painful, I have to say that sometimes being stuck inside a loop helps me notice obscure patterns that look similar to what happens either in nature or amongst ourselves humans, just in a bigger scale. And today I very much would like to share with you similarities I have recently thought of while brooding, munching, crunching, and ruminating on what has happened in my life. But before I start, I would like to stress that what I say here is not meant to be disrespectful or meant to offend anyone's personal sensibilities. Please take what I say here in a spirit I meant it for, which is always to try to understand why so much love can be wasted, invalidated, soiled, perverted, and then thrown back in our faces in the most hateful and spiteful manner. So, within the community, I am starting to think that we as a group are not doing ourselves a favor when we accept and internalize that those who have inflicted so much destruction and so much pain in our lives don't know what they are doing, and that they don't understand the impact of their actions because they are unable to connect emotionally and because they are unable to self-reflect, etc., etc. The other thing I have noticed is how quick we label our abusers as simply crazy. I think those kind of labels are too dismissive in the face of the calamity they bring. To me, such notions imply that on some level, what they do to us is simply beyond their control. Therefore, we, the victim, should not expect them to be accountable for the devastation they bring. I think that this way of thinking is far from being adequate. I think it will be more beneficial to everyone if instead we could face the facts that they are smart and that they only come across to us as crazy because the rationale is alien to a lot of us. And also because deep down, I suspect most of us don't really want to accept that those people innately specialize in warmongering. I do recognize and accept that there are people within the spectrum of narcissism who operate in this hurtful manner out of a variety of sub-conditions. But I have to say that based on my own personal experience and coming across different stories with the exact same patterns over and over, it simply becomes very hard for me to accept that those individuals are simply crazy or that they don't understand the full impact of what they are doing, especially when later on evidence of plotting comes to the surface. I honestly can no longer subscribe to them being crazy. I think we are the crazy ones to keep thinking they are crazy. To me, it is becoming more and more obvious that those emotional predators manipulate, deceive, and use people in a way that is eerily similar to the tactical maneuvering, conquering forces throughout the world have used in the past. You may disagree with me, but history shows that the tactics of war that have been used over the centuries against countries who had something other countries wanted was to first land wherever, with or without permission. Second was to pacify and seduce. Thirdly, study and get to know the target thoroughly. Identify strengths, weaknesses, and identify all potential enemies of the target. Fourth was to divide by inflaming old or simmering resentments. If there was nothing there, then a problem will be manufactured to create dispute and resentments. After that, it'll be just a case of sitting back and let them fight it out amongst themselves till they become weak. The fifth step was to pick someone or a group out of all the angry people or the greedy people, to choose someone who is more sensitive or willing or to the needs or the goals of the conquerors, and then put those people or that particular person in power. The sixth step is to obey by the golden rule, which is to keep the white hat on by making sure that it is seen by everyone that the ultimate coup de grace against the original leader is delivered by a native. So that with the white hats on and clean hands, free of blood, the illusion of being saviors or helpers can carry on for as long as necessary, which of course would introduce a massive cognitive dissonance amongst the local population. The seventh step in all of this was that in the end, the conquerors always end up imposing their belief system and culture onto the local people, as well as making them work hard. Now, on a smaller scale, those 7 steps of war can easily be substituted to the 7 steps of narcissistic abuse. From the love bombing to the divide and conquer routine, all the way to the cognitive dissonance. Let's not forget either the acquisition of flying monkeys. Narcissists are notoriously good at making victims work very hard for them in every way. They always manage to groom people to be ready to do whatever they want, no matter what technique they use, be it covert or overt. The similarities are too obvious for all of us not to consider the possibility that those people are born to instinctively implement the rules of war. Only people who are predisposed mentally for war will spend their time preparing for it. Too much of what they do indicate that they exist in a state of readiness to defend against retaliation from their victims. For example, what kind of person would choose to spend their time throughout a marriage working in the shadows to smear campaign their spouse and acquire flying monkeys just to prepare for some eventual backlash in the future? I am sure even gold diggers' spouses don't go to such lengths to protect themselves or cover their tracks when they marry just for the money rather than just for love. So again, my question remains the same. What kind of person functions like this? And honestly, the only answer that comes to mind is this: only a natural born war mongerer. I don't know if I say that right, but that's the best thing that I can come up with. A war mongerer or a war mongerist. I don't know what the proper term is, but somebody who mentally is ready to go to war at any time.